Yeah, so I've been chatting with Saeed. Saeed just asked me to come in if I could just come in and present kind of a bit of what we do outside of just still images, but also a bit about our still images. So we have other services that are not just still stock photography, which is what most people think we do, which we do, but we also do other stuff. And then also talk a bit about just copyright, kind of copyright 101 and sort of some of the usages. So we were having an exchange in emails about kind of how you use images on social media, what's okay, not okay, and a bit about kind of stealing or not stealing images from Google and all that stuff. So we have kind of like a copyright 101. It'll go quick, it's very painless, don't worry. And then that's it. Yeah, so pretty straightforward. Anyways, so who we are, most of you know us probably. We're a global image company, so we have 19 offices around the world, 1,800 employees. We service pretty much every advertising agency in the world and every group. We also work across many corporations around the world. And we have over 100 staff photographers, and then we have over 600 kind of contributors. So these guys, basically, we can hire them out for anything. For assignment photography, they cover all of our news, sports, entertainment, etc. around the world. So we cover pretty much every major event that happens all over the world. So we're the official partners, photo partners for FIFA World Cup. We cover off the Olympics as well, so we're the official partners for Sochi, and all that is pretty much exclusive in terms of commercial rights for those kind of contents for us. All right, so here you can see there's some of our brands on the side, on the right-hand side. We're kind of a holding company in a sense as well, in that we bought a bunch of, in 1995 we started buying a bunch of the kind of stock photo houses around the world and consolidating them under Getty Images. So these are the brands that sit within Getty Images. So the main ones that we have are ThinkStock, iStock, and Getty Images. And that's kind of, Getty Images is the most premium in terms of content. And then iStock is called, iStock and ThinkStock are microstock, which is basically a lot of it's user contributed, so it's user generated content, which is similar to one of our competitors, Shutterstock. That's all user generated content, which is generally not as premium as a lot of the stuff that you would see that's kind of shot for rights managed and the higher end creative work that's available. Okay, so this is what most of you know us for, is creative stills and our video. Now we have a lot of different collections around the world. Basically, we have, in total, we have over 20 million images in our libraries and our kind of archives, if you will. 2.6 million, a bit more, are basically kind of the creative side of it. So those are the ones where we send briefs out to photographers around the world. They shoot it for us based upon what our trend researchers determine to be kind of the trends for the following year, the following quarter, etc. We just released a new app called Momentum, which is allowing, we're putting briefs out there for any photographer. So if you guys want to pick up briefs and shoot them yourselves and you put them into our archives, we would license them on your behalf basically, and then you would get royalties if people pick them up and buy them. So a large part of that is obviously expand our collection so it's more relevant for local audiences, particularly in Asia, and then also just to kind of allow, get more contributors to join our team basically. Here you see global trend research. So we have a trend team out of London and New York, and basically what they do is they look at all the image downloads that we have every year. They determine, what are people downloading from agencies, what are people downloading from small businesses and corporations, and that kind of shows a bit of a cultural history in the sense and the culture of what's going on. So for example, if you compare like the image of Businessman from 2007 versus the image of, versus the Businessman picture from last year. So in 2007, it was a white guy with white hair and wire-rimmed glasses like this with the blue red tie. Last year, it was a guy with scruffy beard, split-brimmed glasses, scruffy hair, a scarf on, looking off in the distance. So it kind of shows a bit of a change in how people perceive business. So all that trend research we have online. It's at this site called curve.gettyimages.com. We usually give it away to agencies for free, so it's just kind of, most of it's just visual trends research across the board. A lot of that is what led us to do the Lean In collection recently, which I think probably a lot of you heard about. That basically was in conjunction with Sheryl Sandberg's leanin.org, which is really showing women in a different way in terms of stock images and stock photography. The other side is footage. So for footage, we have the largest collections of, really, as you can see, model and property release footage globally. So we basically we guarantee all of our footage and our images, so you don't have to ever worry about, somebody coming back and saying, I wasn't authorized to be in that picture and then suing you. If that does happen, you send it to us and we would deal with it. Some of our partnerships are Universal Studios, Discovery Footage. We also recently took over all of the BBC collection. So all of BBC's footage we can license and we put out there. In addition, we're partnered with Red Bull Media House. So everything in terms of Red Bull, we can license as well. Music. Basically, we have partnerships with every major kind of music house around the world. We partner with Sony, as you can see, Lionsgate. A lot of these are just smaller record companies in the U.S. and in Europe, and so they license a lot of their tracks and their bands basically to us. We also have obviously a lot of the smaller clips. So just in terms of National Geographic, you have kind of little just sound bites, sound clips from nature and whatnot. So we license all that as well. That's more kind of the stock side of things. The other side is used more for TVCs, for any sort of broadcast in terms of news companies use it, etc. This is also editorial stills and video is a major part of our business. So what we sell, which we can also license commercially, in most instances, depends on who's in the picture, what it is, and etc. But is pretty much news events, sports and editorial things. So as I was just mentioning before, FIFA, Olympics, those types of things, we can usually license those commercially. We are setting it up so that we can do it where we can basically allow you to use them on social media. So you can access our editorial content for social media use so that it's kind of contextual to what you're doing in social media, whether that be on Facebook, Twitter, etc. So across the board, we cover news and sports all over the world and entertainment. We have a couple of different services that push these out. These are more for, kind of the media in a sense. So Wired Image is one that covers a lot of entertainment, and then we put it out to all the major media companies so they can obviously license that for their sites. Most of this sits on our Getty Images site as well, and what this does is that basically you can go in and license that for commercial uses on most of them. So we have another collection that's called Contour, which basically Contour and Contour Style Contour is all celebrities. So it's all like kind of stage shots of celebrities around the world. And then it's also Contour Style is more fashion. So all the fashion houses, we shoot, a lot of their kind of collections, and then we also shoot models just doing random things and, looking at beautiful poses and stuff like that, I guess. Yep. And all that is also licensable in terms of commercial use. So services and tools. I guess this is the part that a lot of people don't really know about what we do. They usually just think it's just licensing images and content off of our site. One of our big things that we do that a lot of people here don't know is the assignments. So this is photo assignments, and we also do video assignments as well. So this gives you basically access to all the photographers that shoot for us no matter what the content. So they could be the creative photographers. They're also here in Reportage. So Reportage they're all award-winning photojournalists. They shoot anything from war photography to their own storybooks, their own photo stories on whatever may be of interest to them. That could be, I don't know, a prison somewhere, it could just be a school, it could be whatever. And they just build their own photo books, and then we put them on our site, and we work with them in order to basically, represent them so you can use them for commercial shoots. We have over 750 photographers around the world that are accessible, and they shoot anything you can think of, entertainment, portraiture, creative, across the board. In addition, we provide all of the production side of that. So you basically will bring in producers to manage from pre-production all the way through the shoot to delivery on the back end through our media manager services. A couple of our other things. So basically, Day Life is one of our, it's in essence it kind of it distributes our media to media companies and magazines around the world in essence. So it's a content publishing tool. So it's what you would put on there in order to kind of distribute that out to the public, but also it would go out to kind of on the wire in essence. PicScout, what this does is it goes out, all of our photos are basically fingerprinted in a sense, you could say, with all of our metadata and the information that's attached to them. This goes out and finds all of those images so that either A, we can send them a bill, number one, or just to make sure that we can know where our images are being used. If anybody's using exclusively licensed images, we can go and make sure they're not using them improperly, etc. This is also something that we've partnered with Pinterest on as well. So we have a partnership with Pinterest where they're using this tool to go through all of their images that are being uploaded and pinned to their boards daily. And what we're doing is we're looking for images that have either our metadata or they have other data that we can then actually append to it properly so they can better target for people. So in essence, they're using the data behind all the images that have been pinned outside of licensing, for example, to then add more context to it. So it would be more of the content of the image. If it's our image, and there's a food plate in there, we would say what kind of food is on it, for example. So if you're searching Pinterest, you get better returns as a consumer from that. And then Connect. So Connect is one of our APIs. Basically, we allow it so that you can use our APIs to access all of the content inside of our servers and inside of our databases, basically, to use it in a whole host of ways. So, for example, Huffington Post uses it in their CMS. So all their editors, when they're creating articles, they just can go in, immediately search our databases and all of our content, and it's right in their workflow for efficiency. So they can go and easily publish their articles and whatever with the utmost up-to-date and relevant content to that. Other ways that it's used is in news sites. They're just making it dynamic, so it's always repopulating with the latest image content. Creatively, they're using it in terms of, could be like any customer-facing website, just a microsite you guys create. They're labeling the keywords, so whatever those keywords are for that content, then the images can automatically refresh themselves with new creative content, so that the site is always kind of up to date and new for whoever comes back into it. So Media Manager is what we use to create what we call brand libraries. So basically, we use a lot of our trend researchers and our creative teams, and visual, our photographers and all those guys, to take the brand so we would get like a brand book from you guys, or we would get all the advertising you've done for them over the past year, and we would look at that from a perspective of photography and illustrations, and we would create a brand library of relevant images for different campaigns and for the brand overall. So we would use a lot of the different colors, what is the content of the images, how are those laid out, etc. We would put it into our Media Manager system, and basically our Media Manager is it's a digital asset management tool. So all of the assets get uploaded there, so people around the world, or whatever your markets are, can access all that content easily. And you can set, obviously, permissions for things. So as the creative teams, you guys can control, what markets get what, in terms of they can only access these 5 images and they can access these 10, etc. So it's kind of a way to control who's downloading what. Obviously, managing that to make sure you have an understanding of it. A lot of other companies, these guys, they use it just to control all their assets around the world, basically. So they put up, outside of images, they also put up, ads, they put up TVCs, they put up all of that stuff. So that's kind of all to manage the media across the board. So instead of sending everything via FTP, for example, you can just upload it here, it's all branded with the client, and they can access it really easily across the board. Okay, that's it on our services. Anybody have any questions? Try to make it as fast and painless as possible. No? Okay. So, as I mentioned, Saeed had a couple questions with copyright and kind of what are some of the limitations. Most of that he was asking was around social media in terms of, I've had a lot of questions over the past couple of weeks from many agencies about whether or not it's okay to just go to Google, search whatever you're searching, right-click, and upload that to your client's Facebook pages for commercial uses. The answer to that is no, it's not okay, which you probably know. I hope most people know that. A lot of people don't, apparently, but anyways. So what we're talking about doing kind of, having a bit more of an in-depth discussion about it and just getting creatives to come out as well as account services and everything to talk about this as kind of an issue. But from our perspective, really right, I think most of you probably know what copyright is. I hope and I assume you do. It's really just, of course, it's a form of protection for all of your authorships, everything you create. It's more everything that you take an idea and put it into a tangible form. It's not something where an idea, so you'll see that ideas are not copyrightable. You can't copyright an idea. You can only copyright the expression of that idea, in essence. When does it begin? It begins the moment you put pen to paper. So every time you write something down, you take a picture on your phone, etc. That's automatically copyrighted in 160 countries around the world. No questions asked. Some of the misconceptions, these are a lot of questions that we get that I was mentioning. So if it's on the internet, is it in the public domain, and I don't need permission to use it? That's not true. You do need permission to use it. There's certain limitations to when things go into the public domain and when they don't. If there's no notice on the image, I don't need permission to use it. Again, not true. If I don't profit from the use, I don't need permission. We've had this one a lot recently, particularly with the release of our embed feature. So 2 weeks ago, we released this thing called embed, which basically opened up most of our archives and our whole site so that people for non-commercial uses can go and put them inside of their social media. So you can use them in your blogs, you can use them on Tumblr, etc., Twitter, or whatever. Basically, we've had a lot of questions from people saying, well, we're not necessarily making money directly off of our Facebook page for our client, etc. And so really the rule of thumb on that is just in essence that you're using that to build a brand which hopefully will make money for your clients in the future. So it is a commercial use in that sense. So it's not okay. The one kind of caveat that we put on, so if you're a personal blogger and you want to use it, by all means go ahead. So a lot of people have said, well, I have GVN ads on my site, can I use it, even though I'm making money from those Google ads that are on my website? The answer there is yes, because you're not personally hosting them. So if you have your own website and you're hosting your own ads, then in that case, no, you couldn't use it because you're hosting your own ads. So it's a commercial endeavor in and of itself. So it gets a bit kind of weird. But we've had that question a lot of people, particularly our editorial clients. They've all asked, can't we just go and use all of your images for free now without worrying about it? The other one, if I alter the image X%, I don't need permission. Again, that's not true. I'll show you some examples of cases and kind of comparing images in a few minutes. All right, I think you get the point. So, what's protected by copyright? Basically, anything that's put down to paper, it's a work of authorship. So, literary, musical works, dramatic works, pantomimes, pictorial, photography, illustrations, motion pictures, architectural works, etc. It's basically anything that has a tangible form for the most part. So it's something that you actually create, whether that be in a digital format or in a physical format. What's not protected are ideas, concepts, or discoveries, titles, names, basically anything that's not fixed in a tangible form. And then the last one there, anything that's created by the U.S. government.
Makes you guys so special.
They just give it away, I don't know. They just said, screw it, it's all free. I don't know. So anyways, that's one. It is kind of, it is random.
Probably any government.
Probably any government, yeah. I mean, we are a U.S. government, U.S. company to be fair, so, that's why it's in here. But yes, most governments is probably not copyrightable, so anyways. Yeah. So who owns it, right? Any freelance artists or basically employees, the employer of employees who create a work as part of their job. So in this instance, if you create work for Saatchi & Saatchi, for example, none of you own that work. It's all owned by Saatchi & Saatchi. Anyways, can it be transferred? Yes, it can be transferred. Basically, you have to write down whatever you're transferring. You can do it either, you can do it verbally if it's just your own thing, but basically in most commercial senses, you write down what your usage is and what you're transferring for them to use. What rights do you own as a copyright owner? Obviously making copies of the work, distribution of that, performing it publicly, displaying it, and then making derivative works. So you'll see some examples I'll show you in a minute about derivative works and kind of the extents that you can go. Limitations. So, that's not right on the left. So really, in the public domain, right, so there's kind of different things based on different governments. But for example, one of the ones that's attached to this thing called the Berne Convention is basically anything published before 1923 is technically in the public domain, unless they renewed it in 1989. So if they've renewed their, actually going to writing it down and taking an action against it, then it is back to copyright. Otherwise, it's in public domain, which means you can use it for free in essence.
Depends on the country.
Yes, it does depend on the country. So what is an infringement? So basically the key parts, the use of a whole or part of an image without permission, beyond scope or license. So if you get it licensed just for the web, then don't use it on a print ad or don't use it anywhere else. Adapting an image without permission. So a lot of these would be kind of taking an image, saying to a client, we're going to shoot that image, and then going and shooting it. That would be not right, fair enough. Asking another photographer to recreate the image, basically the same thing there. So, and then actually just taking it and photocopying the image would be another one. Okay, so just some examples of things, right? So this is one where, this is like so here where the idea was put down, then this photographer, they copied the idea, and they put it into their own image. So basically, that's not okay, because they used this as a reference, and then they went and shot it themselves, but it's basically the same shot. So they're saying that's not okay. Oh, and these cases, apparently, they were all, so these were actual cases that were in various places around the world.
Is that original Getty?
This one, no, this one's not. Some of these aren't. So this one on the right is a Getty image originally. And so basically, even here where it's been adapted, so this is the question of, well, if we change it enough, then it's technically okay to go ahead and use it, right? So we reshot it, but we changed it enough that we think it's actually okay. So in this instance, there's things that are similar between it. So for example, the flamingos, there's the flamingos here. Basically, there's kind of the same people, their arms around their shoulders. And so yeah, this one was actually put into a court, and Getty defended they won because they said it's actually a copy. So it is kind of very interesting, how this works. I'm not exactly an attorney, but apparently it's very, very complicated. So there's a lot of different rules to it in terms of what is fair use and what is not, and blah, blah, blah. So those are just kind of some examples in terms of how far it can go and still be sort of protected in a way. But, so in terms of in social media, I think it's pretty simple. As long as you either made the image yourself, your company made it, or whoever, then you can go ahead and use it without worrying about it ever, basically. It's kind of that simple. Some resources. Take a look at curve.gettyimages.com issued copyright. So Curve is our insights, basically insights and trends research site. So just go on there. It's actually a really interesting blog. They have a whole bunch of stuff on the Lean-In collection and all that stuff, which is actually quite fun to learn about. They have trend research in terms of visual trends and what's hot right now and what's kind of, what are people shooting and what are they looking at. This issue obviously is focused on copyright, so they have a couple things. They have an article in there on our new embed thing as well, among other things. PACAoffice.org, they're kind of they're just a global copyright office. Their whole kind of mission is to educate people about copyright. They have a boatload of information on there as well, if you guys want to learn more about it. That's it from my side. I hope that was helpful. Anybody have any questions?
How does the breakdown work? So if I change the file name and then Photoshop it, does it still can change the
Yes, you can. Because the metadata is actually in the file itself. So apparently, I don't know how it works. I'm not.
How do you delete the metadata?
So that's why, apparently a lot of it sticks with the image, even if so if you right click it out of Google, it will stay with the image. Even to the point of like the lens that was used. In many cases with your iPhone, even if you shut it off, it will still append the geographic data. So it'll append the latitude and longitude to that image as well. So it just, it stays with it. Sorry.
Can you talk about property rights of an image?
Sure.
Because for example, there's an image when you have the, buildings, very iconic buildings that we want to use it to represent something for subject.
Yes.
Okay, of course we have to buy the rights, the license rights to use the image.
Yes.
But what about the property rights? Like when
Yes.
you get, into trouble if you use it to represent something,
Yeah. So those things basically, if you buy royalty-free images, they usually have all the rights and clearances are attached to that. So what that means is basically that, so if you buy them off of Getty, for example, you have any image in there, we have cleared all the rights, regardless of what's inside of it. So if there's a logo of DBS Bank in there, we've cleared the rights with DBS to have it in that image for a royalty-free image. So you don't have to worry about it. Now,
So then can we use that logo, let's say DBS, on a very not very decent subject, let's say?
no, actually you can't use any of the images on a not very decent subject, i.e. porn. You cannot do any of that. If that's where you're going with it, I don't know what you're working on, but basically, most stock houses do have in their user license agreements, they do say that. So, for example, if you're using it to illustrate in a newspaper, that you have an article about somebody who was a victim of a crime, for example, or that you're trying to illustrate what the perpetrator looked like, you need to put a lot of disclaimers in there if you're using stock images to illustrate that. So things like that do have restrictions that you have to kind of cover it off. So if you're using it in indecent things, usually you just put a disclaimer saying, this model has nothing to do with this. Porn is the one thing that is completely excluded, though. It's like never okay. Not that you guys are doing that, but things like some stock houses do restrict other things, though, in terms of healthcare. So one of our major competitors does restrict actually the use of their images in healthcare unless you buy their extended licenses. So it's basically a way to get more money. all of our RF images are cleared for healthcare uses, so any healthcare client is cool. Yeah, mainly the thing is just not using it in any sort of derogatory way. And if you do, and it's not sexual in that way, then you just put a disclaimer on it. That's clear for everybody to see. Buildings and all that. So we do have this other service called rights and clearances. So rights and clearances is basically rights and clearances is rights and clearance is basically what we do is if you have an image, so if you've gone and done a shoot and you don't want to Photoshop all this stuff out, then we basically send that to our rights and clearances team. They will go through the image and they will clear it and then we'll indemnify it for a certain amount of money. So what we'll do is we'll look at it and say, okay, you're using it in Singapore for a print ad across the board. That's cool. What we look at is say, okay, the building's here, here, and here because they're architectural works. Most likely the architects of that aren't going to say anything, so it should be okay. And then we'll say we'll indemnify it for $30,000. So we'll basically, if you ever got a cease and desist letter from somebody saying stop running that ad because our building is in it, you would just send them to us and we would talk to them, and then we would use that to protect it legally. So that's kind of something. It's used for a lot of archival images, for example. Let's see here. So basically, it's used for a lot of archival images. Basically, it's find it, clear it, guarantee it, use it. So in essence, if you find any image you find on the web or anywhere that you want to use an archival image, or even if you scan a negative that you have and it has people in it or whatever, you can send it to us if you want to use it for an advertising or commercial purpose, and we'll clear it. So we'll basically say you're okay. We'll put a guarantee, a certain amount of money guarantee on it, depending on what you're doing with it. And we'll say it's okay to go ahead and use it, and it's guaranteed by Getty Images. So you have the legal rights in a sense to use it. And that's something you can take to your client to say, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Because yeah, if you did get caught out on it, that would be your guys' responsibility. And the end client's responsibility, actually.
Do you have to credit Getty Images after that?
No, you never need to go. Anytime you buy our stuff, you don't need to credit on the stamp. You don't.
What if we buy from somewhere else, let's say I stop photo, and we run into something, some copyright issue, and we wanted to get the image clear?
Sure, yeah, we'll do it. And then we'll try to sell you a ThinkStop. So third-party clearances, right? This one here, so the Louvre in France. Actually, an interesting one is the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is quite interesting in terms of rights and clearances. The main reason is that technically the Eiffel Tower itself went out of copyright a long time ago. However, so if you take a picture of the Eiffel Tower in the daytime, you can use it in commercial without having rights from anybody in the world. If you take a picture at nighttime with the lights on, that's copyrighted because the lights are new artwork. I thought that was really funny. I was like, so just keep that in mind. Right? It's really weird, right? Yeah. Yeah, these are all basically just images that we can some other examples of rights and clearances that we did. So these are just case studies of various rights and clearances that we did. So you can see this image here, this guy apparently did not want to be in it. He was okay with it, so they managed. No, I'm sorry, separate image. This image was okay. There was a separate image of Muhammad Ali here and George Foreman, and George Foreman was not okay to clear that image. So we recommended this image instead, which is just some random boxer against Muhammad Ali. They ended up using it in their ads. So these are kind of case studies of when we take archival images and use and clear those for you so you can use them in your ad. I mean, here's another one just for whatever you say, print ads or commercial developer, inner city, retail space. We want to use some of these images. So we'll clear them you know, if you have the ideas where you want to use old images like that, you can go search our site for a lot of the archival images from news and whatever, and then we would just make sure that the rights are clear so you can use them in your creative. So here they wanted to use it in a product label, and that was just an old image, so yes. Yeah, those are various ones. I think one of the other interesting ones actually is Einstein and Marilyn Monroe. They're quite cool because they're actually the two most downloaded and used celebrities worldwide. Is Marilyn Monroe and Einstein, and you don't have to clear rights to use their images actually, because they both died in places that don't protect their image past their death. So don't worry about it. I thought it was quite interesting. Anyway, so yeah, that's it.
What about music or video that we see online? Do we ask any clear?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Anything you see really anywhere, you can send to us. There is a fee for us, obviously, to do that. So there's one fee for us to first explore whether or not, just to contact the owners to see if they're willing to license it, and then we take 25% of whatever the license fee itself is. So, for example, anybody on YouTube, if you want us to reach out, we'll do all that. That's like it's $500, and then we go and 25% of whatever that license fee is, kind of like use. But then we would manage all of the, we manage all the contracts, put the guarantees on it, and all that stuff as well. So in terms of security, that's the whole thing too. And then for local content as well, so we recently shifted it from Flickr to this site called Momentum. It's called the Moment Collection inside of Getty, which was all the Flickr content that we had. So you used to be able to upload to us through Flickr. We used to have a partnership with Flickr that ended last week. Yeah, so basically it's all on Moment. So that's kind of a way that if you guys want to even submit your own work to us, you can do it through that site. Like I said, there's an iOS app where we're kind of collecting, putting briefs out via the iOS app and trying to get more and more content, for our own
So for
system.
subscription in you, then we have access to like random people who ever uploaded to the Momentum.
Depends what the subscriptions are, right? So we have different, so for example, we have ThinkStock, which is basically the same as Shutterstock. So that's more user-generated content. So that's generally speaking, that is anybody can just sort of upload. And then, there's differences between the two, obviously, different products and companies, but that's in essence what that is. And then you have the higher end, so you have iStock, which is a mix of different creative photographers as well as editorial, as well as things from ThinkStock and user-generated. And then you have Getty Images, which is mostly premium, shot by more professional photographers that kind of have briefs that we send out. And it's also a mix. It's a mix of things from ThinkStock and the other two as well. So we give access. We have this thing called 360, which gives you access to everything as well. But again, it depends on what you guys are, what you're doing and what the license agreements are and all that stuff as well. And then video is another one. Obviously you get access to all the video as well. Illustrations, vector files, all that stuff.